Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we are going to do a BT token guide for December. So we're going to look at kind of what units are coming out in December, and I'm going to give you my recommendations for what BT characters you should be looking to grab. So for those of you who are new to this series, basically what I do is I give suggestions every month as to who are good characters coming out that month, or maybe characters currently released in the game that are good to use your BT tokens on in case you happen to have 50 BT tokens and you're wondering who should I spend them on, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by looking at mostly characters that are coming out in the month of December or very close to it, and then I'll give some suggestions for characters that have already been released that I think are very good investments, right? The other thing to keep in mind is obviously if you have a character that's a favorite, like every character is decent with their BT. It just depends, but some characters the BT is a lot more important than others, so definitely pay attention to some of those recommendations, right? So first we're going to start off with Yuna, Emperor, and then I threw Sephiroth in here. So I'm going to start with Sephiroth. Sephiroth isn't really releasing during this month or anything like that. I just wanted to mention Sephiroth because at the time of recording, like, Dorgan just got released. And if you pulled for Dorgan and you have Dorgan's kit and you really like Dorgan, Sephiroth can potentially be a very important part that makes Dorgan work very well, and that all comes from Sephiroth's BT. So one thing I will shout out is if you really like Dorgan and you really want to make his FR look really good, Sephiroth's BT effect, and he's always had one of the cooler BT effects in the game, basically makes it so that while that BT effect is up, basically after every action, the enemy's brave just returns back to 1. So they'll go from broken to 1, they'll go from max brave to 1, like no matter what. Essentially, while Sephiroth's BT effect is up, the enemies are going to be breakable on every single attack, which is going to make Dorgan look ridiculous. You pair that up with a single target damage dealer like Tifa, you're going to be able to break Dorgan's, and then Dorgan's counter is going to go off. He's going to break the other enemy, get a double counter. Like, you're basically going to be guaranteeing double counters like every single time you swing, which is really busted because you could say go into a Tifa BT phase with Dorgan's FR up and just go crazy, right? Which I might actually do a showcase on that. We'll see. But so I just wanted to shout that out. Now, I would say for the average player, I wouldn't recommend Sephiroth right now. He's kind of in between upgrades. He's like still decent, but he's definitely like Sephiroth himself isn't like a top tier damage dealer right now. But it would just be if you really like the idea of using Dorgan with that BT effect, right? Now we have Emperor and Yuna coming back as returning BTs. It's very rare that I like highly recommend a returning character for BT, so they definitely wouldn't be top of my list, especially not Emperor. Emperor and Yuna, they're both kind of just like generic buff type BT effects. It's just Emperor's is dependent on the enemies being debuffed. Yuna would definitely be the better of the two, but I really wouldn't say that I would recommend either of those. So this first page here between Yuna, Emperor, and Sephiroth, I really wouldn't, like, for the average player, recommend any of those. Unless the character is your favorite or you really want to abuse Dorgan, then you're going to want Sephiroth. And if you like Ida Roth and you have Ida LD, Sephiroth helps abuse that as well. So if you really like abusing the break mechanic, you could grab Sephiroth, right? All right, so another set of returning BTs. We have Jagrin, Prish, and Theodore. Jagrin is a hard no. He's doesn't get anything really special here. He's still like one of the least impressive characters in the game. Really no reason to grab Jagrin unless you have every other BT in the game and just want to get it for collection purposes, or you for some reason really love Jagrin, then sure. Prish, I'm actually like a super big fan of Prish, but I'm even willing to admit, and you can see my Prish is green-blue. Like, I love Prish. She's awesome. Her BT effect basically makes it so she gets extra brave hits, which is really powerful, right? Can really help her ramp up her brave and do good damage. As much as I'm a fan of Prish, like, this isn't really the time for it. Prish is way overshadowed by other damage dealers. We already know of Tifa and Renoa, and there's another one coming up that I'm going to be recommending in this video. So because Prish is mainly just a damage dealer, her BT really just helps her do damage. In today's meta, like, Prish really isn't all that. So I really wouldn't, if you don't have Prish BT, I would say you're fine without it. You definitely don't need to grab it. Theodore's kind of just got one of those generic aura ones. Theodore isn't like the craziest character in the game. He's a good healing kind of support character, but once again, much better characters in the game. So this next page here, I wouldn't really recommend any of these either, right? Now we get to like the big daddy, like brand new BTs, right? So the two big ones that come out in December are going to be Cid Raines and Seymour. So let me talk about those first. Seymour, I honestly wouldn't recommend unless he's like a big time favorite of yours. Now Seymour definitely gets better here because he's going to get a BTFR. But I'm just not a fan of the way they build Seymour's kit. his kit is built, he's built like a boss character, right? So he's meant to get stronger as the fight goes on. So as the boss you're fighting, so Seymour's going to start off really weak. And then as you whittle down the boss's HP, Seymour gets stronger. His BT effect essentially works the same way. It's got a bunch of auras and buffs, but they get stronger as enemies get weaker. So his is a BT that you want to use like later in the fight. I would just say if like, for the average player, like Seymour just isn't all that for me. But if you like him and you like Seymour, then sure. But I really wouldn't recommend him. Raines, I would think, is a different story. So this is really going to depend on if you like Raines' playstyle. So for those of you not familiar with Raines, he's a launch-based character. Like, he is all about the launch, right? And the way Raines works is he pretty much can launch on every attack. And then at the end of the launch that he initiates, he will do like an automatic follow-up at the end of the attack that ignores defense, which is quite powerful, right? His BT, like, if you're going in on Raines, you do want the BT. Now, cautionary thing here is never use your BT tokens before you summon for the character. Like, make sure you're done summoning for Raines and that you don't have the BT before you use the tokens. But I think if you want to use Raines FR, like, you want the BT. So basically what his BT effect does, it's got some generic auras and all that, but the unique thing that it does is it actually changes his follow-up attack at the end to like a better version. And so the thing that's significant about the better version of his like follow-up attack that comes at the end of a launch is that it counts as being a part of the launch. Because normally his follow-up is like a bonus attack. But what happens is when he has his BT effect up and he does the new version of that follow-up, it actually counts as being like an extra character participating in the launch, which is super significant for his FR. Because basically Raines' FR is built like the cheese version of Cam's FR. So Cam's wasn't intended that you gain big launch percentage for each character participating. Well, Raines does do that, and it's intentional. And so every character that participates in the launch does 20 to 30%, something like that, right, per hit. Well, normally Raines' follow-up at the end doesn't count as a separate character participating, but if the BT effect is up, it does. So you're getting like, basically you're going to get, during his FR, you're going to get like a 20 to 30% chunk on launch, and then you're going to get 3 more 20 to 30% chunks for each of those characters, because that last one at the end is going to count. So really, what I would say is this. If you're going to go in on Raines and you want to specifically utilize his FR, then you want the BT, because his BT is really meant to maximize his FR. Now, if you just want to keep Raines as just like a nice launch enabler, but you're still going to be using like Tifa as your main FR character, then you don't need Raines BT. It's like totally unnecessary, right? So Raines, I think it's going to depend on how you're going to use him and if you're going to go all in on him. But I would say for the average player, Raines wouldn't be the one I would recommend. It's only going to be for players that really want to use his FR and really maximize that, right? Now at the bottom, you see I got my boy Garland here. The reason why I threw Garland, I'm not actually talking about Garland, but what we are talking about is Jack Garland. Now, Jack Garland technically is slated to come out like the first week of January, but I think what's going to happen is he's going to drop for Christmas. So I think he is actually going to be in December. So we definitely want to talk about Jack Garland, and Jack Garland is my number 1 pick this month. He is like, so since Tifa and Renoa, like they have been the queens of DPS in this game. Jack Garland is the first character to drop that really contends with them and really is like a meta-defining DPS character. So if you like meta DPS crazy unga bunga characters, then Jack Garland is a character I would definitely go all in on and grab the BT. So just keep that in mind. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is I am recording this before the community stream. I'm actually doing this on Sunday. I'm doing it like the day before, but this is the time I have to record, so I want to get it done now. So just keep in mind with the community stream, there could be a surprise thrown in there. The schedule is always subject to change, right? So an example could be, let's say for Christmas, they want to drop a global first. Well, that would probably push Jack Garland back into January a little bit. My suggestion would still be valid. Like, yes, Jack Garland's good to grab, but you just might have to wait a little bit longer to grab him. Just keep in mind, if they do any time travel characters or new characters, they're probably something I would recommend, because typically when they do that, they're very good, right? But so far, out of everything I've talked about, Jack Garland is a huge standout. You're going to have to wait till the end of the month, though. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some very recent or past characters that are very good, right? So, at the top I have Minwoo, and I'm going to throw in with Minwoo Celis, because Minwoo and Celis are very similar styles of characters. They're kind of like trap-based characters that do a lot of damage during the FRs that way. I would say Celis is more the tank route. Minwoo is more like the support healing route, right? But Celis heals too. I kind of find a lot of similarities there. I think Celis or Minwoo, if you like those characters in their playstyle of like defensive support type characters with still quite valid and powerful FRs that you can do a lot with. I've done showcases with Minwoo and Celis and their FRs going crazy. They're very good. So I definitely could recommend Celis or Minwoo. But my top recommendation would have to be Tifa and Rinoa for like characters that have already been released, right? So Tifa and Rinoa, they're still like top tier DPSs, and their BTs are extremely important for their kits, right? So Rinoa, you need her BT effect up to get her ultimate Angel Wing, which is what makes her so powerful. And with Tifa, you need her BT effect to get her somersault and water kicks or whatever going, right? Her somersault kicks and her dolphin blows, whatever. She gets her double follow-ups, right? Whatever they're called. But you need those to really maximize out on the damage. With that in mind, you would want to green these characters, go all in on them, make them kind of crazy, right? Now, I'll throw Luna Freya into the bunch, and actually, I think Luna Freya is actually getting a rerun this month. So Luna Freya is going to get a banner back. The thing with Luna Freya, the reason why I typically, like, I wouldn't actually recommend her BT, it's not nearly as necessary. Like, Luna Freya LD only is still busted. So, like, if you like Luna Freya and you just want to max her out and make her good, like, better, like, yeah, sure, her BT effect definitely makes the party better, but it's not as necessary. So, you know, when we're talking about characters like these DPS characters like Jack, Garland, Tifa, Rinoa, like, you really want the BTs to make them look good, because then you get the free BT effect you get the BT attack with the free BT effect, and then you get the burst phase, which your DPS character is going to want to use the burst phase, so you're going to get like 2 rounds of their BT effect, which the BT effects for all these characters are very powerful. So those are really my top recommendations, right? So to kind of summarize, I would say my top pick for new character would be Jack Garland. And then for returning characters, it would be Tifa and Rinoa. Those are my big picks this month. Now, it doesn't mean that other characters aren't good, aren't valid, right? So if there's a character I didn't talk about that you want to know my opinion, please hit me up in the comments, or feel free to join my Discord. My Discord is down in the description of all of my videos. So anyways, guys, hope this BT guide helps. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.